Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Biz Stories because we know every small business owner and entrepreneur has a story or five or 10. And today's guest is Michael Barbarita. He's been around for a while in Next Step CFO, and he's going to help us debunk myths about finances and what small business owners can do to use financial strategies to kind of stay ahead of the game. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura Lynn. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and it's always nice to have guests. We've got Michael dialing in from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, which you're going to hear a little bit of the accent as we get into the show and kind of describe the visual for the folks that are dialed in auditorily versus the ones watching on YouTube. But here we go. Michael, tell folks what you're good at.
Well, I think the best thing that we're good at is called strategic CFOs, and the reason is that if you look at the Fortune 500 companies and all the CFOs, you don't get hired unless you really understand not only the financial stuff, but also understanding the business strategy, business and understanding thoroughly business strategy. So that's why we call ourselves strategic CFOs because we not only analyze financials. We not only do business and cash flow forecasting, we not only solve cash flow problems, we not only identify the critical metrics in a business, but we also help business owners implement business strategies. You know, you can go to Google or ChatGPT and learn all you want about business strategy. It's about implementation. So that's what we do best. We help business owners implement business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing.
And that's a key thing. I talk to so many small business owners, and they really get a bit confused between a bookkeeper, a CPA, and a CFO. And then I explain it, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. The
Okay.
bookkeeper is great making sure bills get paid, everything's running tickety boo. The CPA makes sure you are aligned with the IRS and all responsibilities there, right? Because that's a big one. And then the CFO is thinking about it from a business perspective. How do you use the financial ins and outs to propel the company forward? Is that fair?
That's very fair. Just one more note on the bookkeeper. They do the bank reconciliations as well, and all of the reconciliations to make sure that the numbers tie out to something logical. Because for a CFO, it's critical that the numbers are in reasonable shape. They don't have to be in perfect shape. The CFO can massage numbers, to get them into the right shape. But the bookkeeper has to have has the ability to get the books in some decent shape. And the CPA is all about usually, at least in today's world, is mostly about the IRS and taxation.
Right.
And we help business owners make decisions through, because a CPA is mostly historical. A CFO is forward looking. You want to know what's going to happen versus and what could happen and what are the risks and opportunities versus what has happened. We deal with what has happened as well, but it's mostly the benefits come from understanding the forward looking.
Perfect. I think it's a really good segue to get into the show. We always like to start up front with a good tip. So, as a forward-looking, forward-thinking business strategist who just happens to be really grounded in the numbers and what they mean, Michael, give our small business owners and entrepreneurs your best tip on what they can do to move their business forward.
Okay, well, I like to give two tips if you don't mind.
Sure.
What?
I don't think our audience is going to complain. Not one, but two tips
There
today.
you go. So one of the most valuable tools that business owners could take advantage of, especially from a CFO, is without a doubt, it's the business and cash flow forecast. Because the business and cash flow forecast, I mean, winning business owners, especially in uncertain times, want to know what's going to happen, and they're going to have to make a lot of decisions. And the thing about the business and cash flow forecast is it helps you understand the outcome and ramifications of your decisions before you make them. So, like, for example, just a quick example, a lot of business owners get surprised by income taxes. Well, if you have a business and cash flow forecast, you'll never be surprised by income taxes ever again because you'll always know what your projected net profit looks like. And the CEOs of the best companies are just never surprised by taxes or anything else for that matter, because they have a business and cash flow forecast. So that's one tip that's, I think, really important. The second one is the key to successful marketing is that you need to get inside the head of the prospect. Now, it's easy for anybody to say. As a matter of fact, that line was actually created in 1931. Been around a long time. When I was doing research for my book, that's Powerful Business Strategies. That's where I found it. But the emotional triggers to get into the head of the prospect evolve around two things. Number one, the problem the customer has and doesn't want. And number two, the solution they want, they can't find. So my tip is what's called the conversion formula. It's a formula that converts prospects into either the next step in your sales process or into a sale. Okay, and it's called the conversion formula. And there's 4 steps that you have to take in the conversion formula. And they have to be in the right order, otherwise it doesn't work. It's like making water, H2O, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, with just 1 part hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. You don't have water. Same thing here with the conversion formula. So the conversion formula, 4 parts. The first part is called captivate. That's identifying the problem that the customer has and doesn't want. The customer has a problem, they don't want it, they want to get rid of it. Second, now that we've got their attention by identifying the problem, we're starting to get in the mind of the prospect. The second is what we call fascinate. That's the solution to the problem that they can't find. So we've identified those keys to successful marketing and to get into the head of the prospect with the first 2 components of the conversion formula. That captivate, problem; fascinate, the solution. The third component is educate. Now we have to explain why our product, service, and solution is superior to the competition in every way. And then the fourth component is we have to close them. We have to give them an offer. And that offer needs to be a compelling offer, one that will be hard to refuse. And so as a third tip, and do you have any
Oh
questions so
no,
far
okay,
on that?
hold on here now. Let's just pause and kind of roll this back. So you
Yeah,
left us hanging there at the third tip. You said you got to close it, but here you started with
yeah.
captivate, right? Get them on
The
the hook,
problem,
really, right?
identifying the problem,
Fascinate them. That's
the
right.
solution.
Fascinate them, dazzle them, and say, woohoo, we're the best solution, right? Then you want to educate them. This is why we're the best. I think your fourth tip should be motivate. You've got to motivate them to open their pocketbooks, right, and buy. You
Well,
left
that's
us
the
hanging on the
offer.
fourth one, Michael. What's the fourth
Okay,
part of
so
that? Just
it is
close? It
offer.
doesn't.
Yes, it's the close. But here's the thing: I can't just say your close has to be an offer, and it does have to be an offer that's so compelling that the customer can't turn it down without telling you the 5 components of a compelling offer. So, so I'd like to proceed, if I could, to talk about the
Oh, of
5
course.
components. Okay. So the first component of a compelling offer, and by the way, you could combine these components. So the first component of a compelling offer is called urgency and scarcity. Okay, so what is that? Urgency. This offer ends on Friday. Scarcity. We only have 3 left, or we don't have enough bandwidth to take on any more people, whatever it might be. That's scarcity and urgency. Second is risk reversal, where the seller in the transaction takes most or all the risk. You know, when I was in the ski business, Lurlin, the problem that the customer had was that they never really knew if the ski they were being sold was the right ski for them. So they got it up in the mountain and tried it out. So we implemented what we called a ski guarantee. Ski the ski 3 times. You don't like it, bring it back for a brand new pair. Now, my employees thought I was out of my mind. They thought that we were going to have thousands of pair of skis coming
Right.
back, but that didn't happen because all the customer really wanted was a great ski experience. We sold 8,000 pair of skis the year that we implemented that, a 25% increase, and only 8 came back. So it just proves that, once again, a risk reversal is a very, very valuable tool to have in your offer. The third component of a compelling offer is adding more value to a product or service. One of the important things in adding more value is that you understand the long-term value of a customer. And this is where my CFO brain comes in,
Hmm.
where you understand the long-term value. And let me give you an example. When I was in the frozen cookie dough business, the problem the customer had was they didn't want to waste valuable oven space baking cookies. Okay, they didn't want to
Because we
waste
wanted to
valuable.
eat them raw, right? That's what that's
Yeah,
right. That's the whole thing. You don't want to have a big pan, dirty the whole pan. You just want to, right? Anyway, sorry, go on.
no problem. I am so old that we weren't. There was no such thing as eating raw cookie dough at that time, so that was off the table. But good point though. But yeah, so the problem that the customer had is they didn't want to waste valuable oven space baking cookies because it's a pizza parlor or they heated up subs and so forth in the ovens, and they didn't want to waste that valuable oven space with cookies, which was a secondary item for them, a tertiary item even. So what we did is because we understood the long-term value of a customer and we believed in our product, we gave them a free, even though the average or opening order was only $50, we gave them a free convection oven that cost us $200. And so that solved their problem, A. B, we were confident in our product. C, the long-term value of a customer was $5,000. And so it all worked as a result. Now, obviously, there were times where we would place a $50 order, they would get the convection oven, they wouldn't place another order again. That happened. But the long-term effect was very favorable. So that's adding more value. We added more value to the cookie dough by offering the convection oven. So the fourth way to make a compelling offer is packaging and bundling things together. Now, let me give you an example of that. Back to the ski business. So everybody and his brother offered ski packages, skis, bindings, and poles. But what we did in addition to that is we took the most popular ski graphics and we went to the clothing department and put together clothing packages, hat, sweater, bib, and parker, that matched the most popular ski graphics. And those
Ah,
things sold like crazy because, once again, the reason why people in the ski business, or business owners in the ski business, package skis, bindings, and poles is because there's a perception of value when you package together. Well, we took that same concept to the clothing department by matching up the most popular graphics with clothing packages. And so packaging and bundling is another component of a compelling offer. And the fifth, and one of the most difficult to do, I think, is being indifferent to the outcome, is actually separating yourself from the sale. Very hard to do. But when done, it's a winning formula. And just to give you a quick example, lots of times I'll be in a situation where, we talk about the business owner's number one goal. And it comes down to, whether you work with, and getting to that goal is going to require a series of steps. And what I very often say is whether you work with me or someone else, those steps you must take in order to get to your number one goal. So that is that indifference. Because in this world we live in today, salespeople are too connected to the outcome. And as a result, they lose sales as a result of that because everybody thinks they're a used car salesperson.
wow, that's actually a really interesting insight. So I want to roll back and talk about a couple of things here, Michael. So first of all, the adding value and the package and the bundle concept. Brilliant that you brought in the clothes and pieces of that. And for our listeners who don't know Michael Barbarita, he has generated many, many millions of dollars through multiple business. He is kind of a retail king. We'll call you that and give you that title, right?
Thank you.
So, so that's important for our audience to know. The second thing related to that, we are too connected to the outcome. I'm seeing this in a lot of small business owners that leverage, we'll call it like TikTok Shop, Shopify, and these kinds of things, because everybody has the opportunity to hide behind an avatar and say the most scathing, awful things, right? In your Google reviews and your TikTok and your, wherever it's like, oh, that sucked. Those skis sucked. That cookie dough tasted terrible, whatever, right? And we as the owners, we take such pride in what we're producing that we're crippled, by these devastating reviews in multiple ways. Emotionally, financially, it affects the future outcomes of our business. And then, of course, just with respect to reputation, right, we're impacted. So talk to us about how people, owners in particular, can decouple themselves from that outcome.
So you're asking decouple themselves from a bad review? Is that
Well,
what I'm
and from
hearing?
like that sale, you said they're so connected to the sale and the emotions that go into it that it's hard
Right,
to remain indifferent to the outcome and focused on
right.
moving forward. And it's all conflated with the I want to bring value to my customers. You just told us about that and bundling. So help us understand how we decouple ourselves.
Yeah. The secret to that is really caring about the other person. Okay. And when you do that and you really are skillful at that, that is when you can detach yourself. Because remember in the short example I gave about we're understanding the person's number one goal in life, because business is just a vehicle to live the life you want. It's not. It doesn't work the other way around. The business shouldn't control your life, and it does with many business owners. But the business should be the vehicle that serves you and supports the life you want and your number one goal. And so that's why we get very heavily deep into a business owner's number one goal in life. And if you can really focus on that, or whatever you're selling, whatever the desire, if you can get to the ultimate desire of what that prospect wants and focus on that, it's like a natural detachment and a desire a true desire to help, and a true desire, always, even to the point where you say, I can refer you to someone else who could do a better job than me. Even to that point,
Wow.
that's the type of detachment that I believe will help salespeople succeed multitudes more.
That's really interesting insight. Now, I know you said you've written a book and you're making it available to our listeners to download, and that's Powerful Business Strategies as a book. Is that one of the tips that you have in there? Can you just describe to us some of the constructs in the book, what people can expect if they download
Well,
and read it?
yeah, here's something that's really interesting that, we business owners have a tendency to look at the big guys, like, the big companies like IBM or some big companies that have billions and billions and millions of advertising dollars that they can just jam down our throats. And they have a tendency to copy them. And they use terms like largest selection, uh, best service, most convenient, most experienced, honest and sincere, highest quality, um, great location. And what the customer is saying when you say those things is, well, I hope so. I hope you're the most professional. I wouldn't do somebody business with somebody who's unprofessional. I hope you have the largest selection. Why would I go somewhere that had a weak selection? So we overuse this jargon. Business owners overuse this jargon. I see it time and time again. Instead of identifying the problem that the customer has and doesn't want, and the solution they want that they can't find. That's the key to successful marketing. That's the key to getting away from I hope so marketing, which is what I call this jargon. And but it's so overused. If you could go just on just about any website and see that jargon, and it's totally overused. And the other thing, Laura Lynn, about that is every company has is like great. I used to go when I was in the food business. I was at food shows. The most delicious foods in the world are just small business owners who are just struggling and never can get their food to the forefront. I mean, when you go to those food shows, where did you sell this? Well, we don't have any distribution right now. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. And Every business has that greatness to them. But because they're using jargon like this, the outside perception doesn't match the inside reality. The inside reality is that they're the greatest sausage company in the world, in the example of the food business, right? But the outside perception is they have the largest selection, the lowest price, they're honest and sincere, the great location, great quality. Useless. Inside reality versus outside perception.
And that's just it. So clearly, I triggered you and put you on your soapbox there about using the jargon and all that hyperbole that so many of the companies used. But then you've also, in return, in your comments, triggered me in that this is why I do this show. This is why I don't charge for it. And it costs time. It costs time to
Right?
produce it, to host, like,
Absolutely.
because I like to shine the light on these small business owners who have something really cool to offer but people don't know. And I used to go to those food shows, Michael, Chicago, the big, massive, like the food, like
Oh,
the winter,
oh
the
yeah.
spring, like,
Oh,
oh my. And you just, it's the greatest thing. Like I used to go to all these tech conferences all the time. I was like, yeah, look at my software. And here's a demo. And you're like, yeah, yeah, fabulous, great. Oh, amazing. You can rotate those molecules in 3D space and then align them so that they can cure these terrible diseases. Bravo, truly excellent, says the PhD scientist. But as the foodie, when I go to those Chicago shows and they're like, oh, here's this new vegetarian meatball. Here's the best salsa ever. Here's this hot pepper dip. You're like, oh, I
oh
mean,
yeah.
it was amazing.
They're like heavenly. And that you can't find them anywhere,
You
because they don't have distribution.
And that's just it. Like I said, that's my whole thing that I do is I help brands get seen because invisible brands don't make money.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's the whole
Right.
thing. So anyway, back to that. Like I said, oh, we've triggered each other, gone on a little soapbox there. It's fun to go on these tangents. All right.
That's
Let's
right.
let's get back to the financial strategies and planning. A lot of the smaller business folks that we deal with that are solopreneurs or maybe one or two, they struggle with keeping up. They think like, oh my God, I can't create a financial planning strategy and forecast. Get the hell out of here, Michael. There's no way that's going to happen.
Right.
What do you suggest they do to be less overwhelming and say, look, you got to look at your numbers, but at a minimum, I want you to do this. What do you want these business owners to do?
Well, the first thing they should do, and it's going to sound very simplistic, but the first thing they should do is they should increase prices. And they're going to say, ooh, I'm in a competitive environment. I can't increase prices. And I'm saying that you have to start to have faith in your product. If you don't have faith in your product and that you're the best, and then I understand why you don't want to raise prices, but you have to believe in your product. It's like when I was in the frozen cookie dough business and I gave away a $200 item for $50 in return. Got to believe in your product. If I didn't believe in my product, that would be an idiotic thing to do. So you have to believe in your product. The other thing is you have to look at your cost structure. So we have a formula for cutting expenses. You cut the expense if the expense doesn't help you acquire a customer, if the expense doesn't help you retain a customer, if the expense doesn't increase the long-term value of a customer, and if the expense doesn't help deliver your product or service to a customer. And that's when you would cut. Okay, so if it doesn't help acquire, doesn't help retain, doesn't help increase the long-term value of a customer, and if the expense doesn't help deliver your product or service to a customer. Now, having said that, everything can be negotiated. A lot of my clients, small business owners, they're afraid to negotiate. They think that whatever price they pay for whatever it is, they think it's in cement. It's not cement. And because the other business is usually a business owner. Now, sometimes it's a big company. Sometimes you're doing business with Apple or Facebook, and I get that. But you'll still be surprised. You should negotiate every single thing. So that's the other component. The other thing is you should take deposits to help increase cash, and increase cash flow. The other thing is everybody should have a downsell. They should have a cross sell and they should have an upsell. So they should be able to have a particular product that they're selling to a prospect, and they should have an upsell to it or another product to sell to them as a cross sell. Because here's the data: 34% of somebody of people of customers who buy from you are ready to buy something else at the point of sale if asked.
Hmm.
Okay, so 34%. If you sell something, you can sell something else at the point of sale 1/3 of the time. So you have to, but you have to be ready with an upsell, cross sell, and a downsell. Because if your base product is not affordable to the particular prospect, you need to have a downsell ready to offer them.
I've never heard that articulated like that. I really like that. I've always heard the upsell, the cross sell, but not having the downsell. So I think that's great. And Michael, I know we're getting close to the end of our show, and tariffs are well, they're an episode unto themselves. But
Right.
what advice can you distill down in the couple of minutes we have left, given the unpredictability, the volatility? How does the small business owner go, oh, the tariffs are on, they're off, they're on, they're off? Like, what do I do? How do I plan? What do you recommend?
Well, I recommend that you have to increase if you are getting hit with a tariff, you have to increase your prices. There's just no way around that. Now, there are business owners that are using creative ways to avoid tariffs. They're not exactly above board, so I'm not going to talk about them, but that they're doing certain things. You know, some shipments are being delayed in the hopes that the tariffs will go away in those particular countries. So that's another thing, which is stressful. Also, I'm not saying it's not. So the tariffs do present itself with a special problem. Some business owners have decided to keep their prices the same, bite the bullet, because they feel it will blow over time. That's another option. Um, and uh, but we show our clients, those squeezed margins. They don't do the forecast any favors. When we look out on the horizon as to the impact, it's pretty aggressive, and that's why the price increasing is very important. And people, what we found so far is people understand it. They watch the news. They know that that the costs have gone up, and so but on the other hand, people have, that they have budgets to do $500,000 remodeling projects, and the remodeling project in actuality actually is going to cost them 800 to 900,000. It's just the way of the world right now. It's a lot of costs have gone up,
Yeah, it's
but
it's it's difficult
yeah,
for a lot of owners. It truly
it
is.
is.
Now, I, as we wrap up, Michael, where can folks find you? So we know, nextstepcfo.net and your book there. Tell folks where they can find you and how they can get in
Right.
touch with you.
Well, there's a couple of ways. So nextstepcfo.net, there'll be a pop-up that comes up where you could download a free book. There's no need to put your email address or anything like that. You could download the book. It's my contribution to the business world. It has business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. I promise you that. And then also, I'd like to give your listeners an opportunity to do a book interview. Business is always changing. We've got inflation, we've got tariffs.
Right.
So, we've got interest rates that are higher than what they were in 22, 23. So, because of that, I keep writing additional additions to my book, and I love interviewing business owners. It's 60 minutes on Zoom. I show them strategies from my book, and then I ask them questions about the impact that they think the strategy would have for businesses that would implement it in their industry. It's an industry perspective. And so then I document it for the book. And so if business owners would like to do that, they could go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the contact form, put book interview in the messaging, and away we go.
That's a lovely offer. I've interviewed almost 250 guests and no one's done that. So I think that that's great. Okay, Michael, we're going to bring it home. Signature question of the podcast. Our listeners and viewers want to peek into your closet and they want to know what footwear in that closet represents who you are, Michael Barbarita, Next Step CFO. Describe what we're looking at. I'm thinking shiny dress shoes. To describe.
There you go. It's mostly shiny dress shoes and a couple of basketball sneakers. even though I'm way too old to play, I still get around a little bit at about 1/10 of the speed I used to be.
But you're still out there, right?
I'm still
Jumping,
out
trying to
there.
play hoops.
Yeah, I'm
That's it.
still
That's how
out
you
there. Still
stay
out there.
young, stay
Yeah,
fresh. All
doing the
right,
best I can.
folks. That's a wrap with Michael Barbarita, Next Step CFO. Thank you for joining us on Small
Thank
Biz
you for having me.
Stories.
Thank you.